Friends, we got some exciting information for you. Bob Menendez, Senator out of New Jersey, introduced the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021, along with several other colleagues, and that includes House of Representative Linda Sanchez out of California. Now, the bill is over 350 pages. We went through most of it for you, so you'll want to watch all the way to the end to see if you qualify for any of these benefits. Friends, welcome to Green Card Guys TV. I'm your host, John Ting. We've talked about this bill already, U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021. Now, we have a lot to share with you. This video is going to go into more detail than what we discussed last week in the live show. Now, as you know, it's going to provide a 5-year pathway or 8-year pathway, depending on your situation, if you have status or not. Now, this bill does a lot of things. It will provide a significant immigration reform. It will significantly reduce any visa backlog and also address the root causes of the migration from Central America to the United States. Friends, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe down below. Click the like button. That lets us know that you enjoy our content. And please share our video. And at the end of the show, please comment below. If you have any questions, we're going to try our best to answer your question to make sure you're eligible. Without further ado, let's get into the show. Friends, we have 2 parts of this video. The first part is talking about the 2 pathways to obtain legal status. Now, the second part is going to go into detail of what these senators have proposed to reform immigration laws. Now, I want to show you here Bob Menendez's website that talks about this announcement, this U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021, that's really going to overhaul the immigration system. Finally, can you believe it? It's been a long time. By the way, I'm going to give you my opinion towards the end of the show. So far, I'm happy. I can tell you that. The legislation would provide millions of hardworking, undocumented immigrants with a pathway to citizenship, including dreamers, temporary protective status holders, and essential workers. Now, you might be wondering, why is it mentioning essential workers? Because it doesn't actually mention that in the bill itself. I want to be careful with the phrase essential worker. There's nothing in the bill that specifically states essential worker. And the reason I believe it says that it does not mention that is because it would be very exclusive to only a certain group of people that have a certain occupation, right? For example, like first responders, childcare workers, Uber drivers, logistics workers, people who have been working in warehouses, and the healthcare workers, of course. That's only a certain population of people who could qualify for this bill in general. So they didn't mention the word essential workers. But ultimately, everyone knows that a lot of immigrants who are especially undocumented immigrants are essential workers. It will cover you as long as you meet these requirements. And so far, there's not many requirements. You just have to show you pay taxes and that you've been here before January 1st, 2021. So that was this year. So what is the Democrats trying to say? Look, we're trying to include everyone as possible, even people who were deported before. You have to show that you were here before 3 years before. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is to tell you, number one, is there's 2 pathways. There's essentially 2 tiers. There's a tier for people who have DACA status, aka dreamers. Number 2 is TPS holders. And number 3 are farm workers. People in those categories will have a 5-year pathway to citizenship. So when you file an application, it will be straight to residency, legal permanent resident status. There's no mention of a conditional status that you might have heard of, because some people, when they get married, file the application for status less than 2 years of marriage, you get a conditional status. There's nothing of that sort in this bill. So that's a good thing. It reduces the number of applications. So after the 5 years, you can apply to become a citizen. Now, for people who are not dreamers, not TPS holders, and not a farm worker, it would be tier number 2, and that'd be 8-year pathway. Friends, we're offering free 10 minutes with our client advocate to see if you might be eligible for this plan. There's 2 ways you can get in contact with us. You can schedule an appointment down below at thecalendly.com/John Ting, or you can fill out the intake form. Just answer a couple questions down below. It starts with Ting Law. You'll see that link down below in the description box. Okay, friends, I want to show you this proposed bill. It doesn't have a designated number yet, but here's the text. It's 353 pages. Okay, so it says that this is based on an earned path to citizenship and to address root causes of migration and responsibly manage the southern border and to reform the immigrant visa system and for other purposes, because there's a lot of purposes that have involved in this bill. You'll see here the list of senators that have been involved in this legislation. It actually includes several former Democratic presidential candidates from this past year, 2020, and that includes Amy Klobuchar, Bernie Sanders, Cory Booker, Christian Gillibrand, Hickenlooper from Colorado, and also Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts. Now I want to show you, scroll down here, lawful prospective immigrant status. So that's a term that these senators are using. Back in 2013, they had called it something else, registered provisional status, but now they're going to just call it lawful prospective immigrant status. I think that sounds a lot better. Definitely less demeaning, less condescending, that's for sure. Okay, something that's important to me and to many lawyers I know is that the Immigration Nationality Act right now refers to people who are immigrants as aliens. In this proposed bill, they're going to remove that term and they're going to use the word non-citizen. I love that. That's much better. Now on to the bill itself. Now, Section 1101, lawful prospective immigrant status. This is what it says on how you can qualify. First of all, you have to go through a background check, really for the government to check if you have any national security concerns or if there's any concerns about that, and also of your criminal background history. Okay, here it says the duration of status. It can remain for 6 years, but you can also extend it for another 6 years. And you might wonder why that's allowed, because some people might miss the timing to apply for citizenship. And also some people don't even want to become a resident, may not want to become a resident or a citizen. Now in this episode, we're also going to share with you something that we believe is important to you, even though some attorneys might not be covering it. And that is, if you're going to be in this second pathway for the lawful prospective immigrant status, it's also saying that you're going to be eligible for healthcare. That's very important, because I know a lot of undocumented people are not able to get any kind of healthcare. So that's what it says here under the Affordable Care Act. It's also saying, we've also had people ask if you apply for this kind of status, if you're going to be able to apply for advanced parole and travel outside the United States. And according to this text right here, yes, you can. That you can travel out, you may travel outside the US, but you have to, of course, show proof that you have this status. And also have proof of the travel document, which the government refers to as advanced parole. And you'll be also issued a social security number. And of course, you'll have to pay your taxes. Now, here's a section that allows a person who would have lawful prospective immigrant status to adjust status to a legal permanent resident. It says, of course, you got to pass a criminal and national security background check, pay certain fees, and you have to show that you've been a lawful prospective immigrant having that status for at least 5 years. And so if you had it for less than 5 years, you cannot apply. So even though the first duration of that status is 6 years, you can apply at the 5-year mark. Now here it goes into the first tier. They refer to the DREAM Act in this section. And so this is the quote unquote fast track where people who have DACA can go ahead and apply for adjustment of status to a resident. And here it shows the basic requirements, just like DACA itself, that you have to have some kind of high school diploma or a GED or graduated from a higher education. Now, here's something that most of y'all may not know. There's been a problem for people who want to apply for DACA but could not for several reasons, whether it's because when President Obama announced this program back in June 2012, that some people did not meet the cutoff age. They could have been age 32 at the time, because the cutoff age is 31 for DACA, or they were not in the US at the time of June 15, 2007, because DACA requires that a person was in the United States at that time in 2007 and continuously lived until the present time. So there's some people in that kind of situation. So this is what these senators propose in this bill to help them. And so here's a section that says you have to serve as a uniformed service for not less than 2 years. There are other requirements like the GED, go to high school or a college degree, but it just adds this kind of like for a catch-all for people who have served in the military. Now there's a section called the American Promise Act, and that includes people who have TPS, temporary protected status, or for people that have something called deferred enforced departure. And for people that have TPS, you have to show, or DED, you have to show that you're physically present in the US since January 1st, 2017. So that's slightly different than what I mentioned, January 1st, 2021, for the other category of persons. Now, this also includes agricultural workers, farm workers. Now, there's actually some more amazing information to share with you. But first, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe down below. Hit the like button. That lets us know that you enjoy our content. Leave a comment down below if we can be of service to you. If you have any questions, we will try to get in contact with you. But if we're not able to respond to you, please fill out an intake form down below. And that also lets you to be part of our e-newsletter, our free newsletter that we send straight to your email every week to give you some kind of update on what's going on with the progress of this bill. Because like me, I know you're waiting for this to pass. Now let's talk about what else is in this bill that could help you. Now, as you can see here, this section is talking about waivers for people who were already previously removed. We have a lot of clients who were not eligible for anything in from court. And so for whatever reason, or maybe because I had criminal history, they were not able to get a green card, resident status through court. So they had to be removed. And there's a lot of people who are in the US, and that may include you, even though you were removed on paper. Now, if you're listening to the show and you were removed previously, this will probably greatly benefit you. Now, here it says if you were removed, actually departed the US on or after January 20th, 2017, and you were continuously physically present in the US for longer than 3 years before that time that you left, you can file for a waiver. The theme here is that these senators are trying to promote family unity. Any waiver that you're familiar with right now, it's based on hardship to a qualifying relative, typically to a spouse or to parents who are US citizens or residents. Now, as you could imagine, there are some restrictions, and that is if you have been convicted of a felony or you've been convicted for 3 or more misdemeanor offenses, except it doesn't include situation if you had possession of marijuana. Basically, it says cannabis or cannabis-related paraphernalia. That would not count. But actually here, there's another benefit here. But even with those restrictions, there is an opportunity for you to apply for a waiver to show family unity based on hardship. Okay, so some of y'all have asked me in the live show who is not eligible for this. And that includes people who already have resident status. Of course, it may be strange why someone would apply for this anyway, but they just have to specifically write that. And also people who are refugees, and also people who are granted asylum, because people who are granted asylum can apply for resident status anyway. So it also includes people who have non-immigrant status, and that includes, for example, F1 student visa. So if you're here on a student visa in college, or even as a high school student, you cannot go straight to apply for this. So those are just a few examples. But for those who have asked me if you have a current pending application, let's say, for example, asylum, this bill does not say anything restricting you if you are an asylum seeker. So that's a wonderful thing. That's good to know. So that's something we want to share with you as soon as possible. That is definitely not for anyone that is trying to come into the country, whether they're coming for the first time or the second time. It does not include anyone that has entered the country after January 1st, 2021. All right, friends, so we just went through the first section of this video. Friends, tomorrow we're going to share with you part number 2, because this bill, again, was over 350 pages. So it's a bit much. So stay tuned, and we'll see you tomorrow. Friends, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, please watch our videos for free tips, and please continue wearing a mask.